Hello and welcome to Live Coding Happy Hour for this fabulous July 10th, 2020. Wow, you take a week off and then you don't know how to
Retrained.
use your words again.
I feel the same way. You get into this routine, and when you take a week off, like, where'd everything go? It's not muscle memory anymore.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll go ahead and introduce ourselves really quick, starting with Brad.
Hey everybody, my name's Brad Tilton. I'm a developer advocate with the developer program here at ServiceNow. I have been with ServiceNow for almost 4 years, and I've been in the ecosystem as a customer admin, developer, partner, trainer, and now ServiceNow employee for about the past 12.
12 years. That's amazing. So long. Hadn't even heard of ServiceNow that back then. And Chuck?
Yeah, I think it was about 12 years ago. I was doing a Google search for some help desk software and came up with ServiceNow. And quickly we enrolled and adopted. I was a customer also for a couple of years from 2008 to 2010. Been with the company for just over 10 years. So very happy to be here. I'm a senior developer evangelist. Always excited and energized to share information like this with you today.
Awesome. Thank you, Chuck. And I'm Andrew Barnes, also a developer advocate here in the developer program, developer.servicenow.com. I've been on the platform for over 5 years as a customer and partner, trainer, and now advocate at ServiceNow directly. It's been a great journey. My first search for, that came up with ServiceNow was in 2014 and led me to go to Knowledge 14, which was my first knowledge, and attended all of them since then. That was a lot. Like that was really your first knowledge is a big deal. So let's go ahead and introduce our beverages around the horn the same way.
All right, I have a Kentucky Winter Golden Stout, which is more like a summer stout. It feels like it's not very dark, so we'll see.
It's winter in Australia. Andrew will appreciate it.
There we go. Yeah.
And Chuck?
I've gone back to the Lithuanian refrigerator and got another unpronounceable name. This is again from my son-in-law. This is their Extra. It's a pre-lager beer. So 1 half liter. I think it's 500 mils.
And I've got today a Wicked Weed, and it's probably hard to read that, which is a watermelon dragon fruit burst, which is a session sour. And
that sounds like a good summer beer.
Yeah, it is a good summer beer. I had a little taste already. So today we are going to do something that is probably not out of the realm of happening for nearly any of our customers and developers out there, which is we've got 2 applications in 2 different ServiceNow instances that are doing similar things. Maybe not exactly the same things right now, but they are serving some of the same requirements.
And there's a whole lot of overlap.
And there's a whole lot of overlap there. And so there's some features in one of these apps that are to be desired, and some features in the other app that are to be desired. And we kind of want both of these, and we want to merge that. And so what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at both of these apps. We're going to get both of them in the same instance. So I think we've already got them in the same instance now. And then we're going to look at our roadmap and process of how to, keep using both of these apps, have no downtime, but start getting advantages of both of them, and then consolidating on just one of them.
The top level requirement that we got was somebody wants to see what Andrew and Chuck and Brad and other people are working on for the developer program. We've got blog articles, we've got videos, we've got live streams, we've got all kinds of these artifacts. And you've probably seen on previous episodes that Dave and Josh years ago started building this artifact manager to help manage them. Well, that's some of the content, that's most of the content really. And meanwhile, Chuck was off in his own little world doing his own app to manage a separate process with some different steps, albeit, but it dawned on us that, if you want to see everything, it's going to have to be in one system of record, one table to report on. So we said, how closely related are these? And did an initial call this week to say, does this make sense to merge them? And Andrew and I said, yeah, it does. So we'd like to dive in deeper and see how well do these two fit together, because there's likely going to be more. There's other artifacts that we're producing for you. And again, this isn't too far off from what you may see as a customer with different departments doing similar processes that really should be in one, or your company's gone through a merger and acquisition and you have to take incident from one team and incident from another team and blend them together, possibly on an existing instance, possibly on a new instance altogether. So there's a lot of vibes that I think you'll pick up on when we go through this and go, what are the questions we need to ask? And what are the solutions? Our answers may not exactly match to your answers, but at least it gives you the background thinking of what it takes to put A plus B and come up with C.
Right. And all of that is what we sort of already started to do. The one thing I'll note in what you said, though, Chuck, is that they need to be in the same table. And that wasn't a starting requirement for us. It was that we need to be able to report up in a single pane of vision what these are. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're in the same table. In our case, we just made that decision that we want to merge these apps because there's so much overlap, but that wasn't necessarily needed. It was just what was appropriate in this scenario.
Good distinction. Reporting doesn't necessarily mean coming from the same table.
Right. Awesome. So, Brad, do you have any questions about this before we dive in and start looking at the two apps? So what I want to do first is just sort of, touch on our existing one that many of our audience have seen before really quick, and then look at Chuck's, and then revisit some of our earlier week conversation to just highlight the key points we made there and get feedback on that. Anything before we do that, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the first decisions you end up making is where is it going to live, and it sounds like we have figured that out, or at least where are we going to consolidate these at the beginnings.
And we did have that discussion and said, look, we've got instance A and instance B. These are two different apps on two different instances. The brute force approach would have been, let me build a REST API to communicate between these two. Okay, that was one option that we discussed. We said, it's not that hard to move the app. And I tried it via update sets this morning, ran into some issues, went through source control, had no issues. So there's a little hint for you what's going on. We've taken that and put it onto the dev program instance. So my app is now on there. Option 3 would have been, let's re-architect and re-engineer from the ground up, but that would have led to some downtime and some clumsiness. So we're taking this in a very iterative approach, skipping over that option of, should we use IDR or should we build our own REST API so that when a record is updated over here, well, if you're going to be writing a REST API from one instance to the other, you might as well just move the app over to that other instance. I know that probably isn't a common situation for customers. I know there are some customers that have multiple prod instances. That may be something you want to consider. Do you want to move the app, or do you want to, I'm going to call it remote integrate them?
Yeah. Awesome. So let's go ahead and drop into the share and then take a look at the two apps real quick.
All right, we're sharing Artifact Manager first?
Yeah.
Am I driving? I'm driving.
Yes, sir.
I suppose
we agreed.
Okay, so this is our instance. Let's go through artifacts. I'm the quickest. Oh, I'm already on the table. How about that? Artifacts assigned to me. Let's get rid of that. And in here, we've got, some of you may be aware of the Builder Series video that's just coming out. And we've got our type. We've got different types of artifacts that we've got in there. Let me know if I'm missing anything, guys. You can probably sell this a whole lot better than I have because you used it much more and much longer than I have. It is not extended from task table. We had that discussion with Mr. Slusher, who was on a call just the other day and said, there were some long, hard discussions between him and Josh when they first created this. This table is not extended from task. Doesn't matter too much in terms of our integration, but it may play a factor later on down the road if we want to do some automation or extension or whatever. And you'll recognize a lot of fields that could be from task, like duration, start time.
There's a hilarious amount of overlap.
Hey, parent assigned to. I'm like, this feels like it's a task to me, but okay. And then we've got some different URLs. And Andrew, you were telling me this isn't, obviously it handles more than videos, whereas mine was specific to videos. And you've got your YouTube information on another table and then percolate the counts up to this table. Is that correct?
The YouTube data is coming.
It's referenced from this YouTube video.
But the counts do live here on this record directly.
Okay.
So they're retrieved, any of the counts, whether they're blogs or videos or any of the views from any of the data sources, update directly to Artifact Manager.
And I had asked you, is this just a list of artifacts, or is there some automation that happens on this, regardless, whether it's a video or a blog or one of these other artifact types? And your answer was,
there's tons of automation here.
As I would have guessed. Yeah. when we do this webinar, Live Coding Happy Hour is part of Artifact Manager, and it sent me a calendar invite. Goes, hey Chuck, you're one of the hosts, you're invited. So I know there's some automation that's going on, and that automation is based on the type, I would assume.
It is. It's very type driven.
So
that's going to be one of the considerations here when pulling in your live streams. Is we're either going to need to add different conditionals on those, or adjust the integrations to handle the different, because they're broadcast to different communities even. So ours is to the developer site, and your community stream goes to the community stream, the community YouTube.
So likely in a future episode, we're going to have to deal with integrations that have multiple keys, multiple credentials, which is going to get interesting. I know that there may be some upcoming features we could take advantage of. That would be very nice. I don't know if that applies to us or not, but having
I think it does apply to us.
Having a little crystal ball vision never hurts in this case. So let's just say Paris may be playing a big part of this migration, and our timing couldn't have been better.
Couldn't be better. We've got this scheduled for Paris upgrade for these instances even. So there was a quick question about the rank field. So I've
actually had that question before in the past too. I'm curious.
As if
I've just never asked it.
So the rank field, it is, so there's two fields and they feel like they're the same. There's priority and then there's rank. And the difference between them is rank transcends type, and the priorities really were within a type. So the highest priority blog item was the next blog to consider. Whereas rank was, we need to, they're sort of paired, but rank was everything is absolutely ranked across all the types. So, okay. And the rank is actually driven with a business rule. So you can't, anytime you adjust a rank, it adjusts everything else's rank.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So if you just double click on one of those and change it to say 11.
Like 1100 or 11?
No, it's just like 11.
I'm not messing with, this is dev anyway.
Yeah, it's dev. And you'll see that it automatically changes to 20. And the thing that was 20 became 30, and the thing that was 30 became 40.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
And so it auto ranks them at 10s. And so you have to pick something that's not a 10, and then it'll shove it into the rounded down next 10 and just pushes everything else down. So it's pop them off the top. 10 is the lowest and it's at the top, and that's the next thing that we should be doing, no matter its type. We don't use it currently very much. Obviously, if Brad doesn't know what it's there for, we're probably not using it anymore.
I sure don't use it.
I just let it get set and come back later.
but that was the intent between those two. Is they're sort of paired, but the priority was for one per type, and rank is transcends type. So that's roughly Artifact Manager. So let's go ahead and drop into the community episode. Is your main central table, right?
Right. The wonderfully named community live stream application. They, I like the rank. I kind of like it like dryer sheets. I trust it's doing something.
I put it in there. I assume it's doing something. That's great. Nice. I love that. That's a great analogy.
All right. So the episode table is where I line up the ideas and what's coming up. You can see I've got a few ideas in here for the Now Community live stream up through the end of July. These are fluid because they're still not scheduled officially. They're only scheduled until I put them on YouTube. But the idea is when I go in and start crafting an episode, go, hey, John Feist or Steve from Sweden, or somebody gave me an idea. I want to flesh that out. First, I want to capture it. So I jot down a few notes in here and go, all right, here's what I want to talk about reference qualifiers. Boom, boom, boom. And then at a later date, I'll come by and give you a more deep dive of what I want to cover in that episode. So there's notes. I've got something to follow along and make sure I'm not just doing this randomly. Gone are the days when I just turned on the camera and pulled articles off of the website. But the topics HTML field is actually a legacy hangover, but it speeds up data entry really, really lots. So I've got a topics related list down here, which has text and a link. And what used to happen is when I would go into the community, I would track what articles I touched because somebody said, hey, can you get me a link to that one about, getting a value of a SysID?
Now pay attention here, Brad, because this is really cool stuff.
Where was it? And I would put it in a Google Doc and then paste it in here. So it would come in as this bullet list. I've got a parser that goes through here. I'm not going to do the link part, but if you had HTML in here and actually made these links, so this would be text link, or text 1, text 2, text 3, so on and so forth. All right. This part, when I save the record, there is a point if it's in collection, which it's not because it's not ready to go. It needs a YouTube link to say, who am I linking to? But I can say reparse and generate, and it will crank out the community HTML that I want to post to the community. Granted, a REST API would be really nice, and my good friends Andrew and Brad are working on that so that we can automate this even further. Right now, I'm copying and pasting, but it's sticking in a YouTube link. This is effectively what you're going to see on the community, and I get to see it rendered. It doesn't have to be. I usually go in here, copy, paste into the community, and away we go. Andrew said, I am not doing any copy, paste on the community. This is going to be all automated. But these bullets did not just come from this HTML field. Oh, no. They were parsed. And
this is the cool part.
Related. That is really cool.
Not only does this get put into the HTML of the community, but it also gets put into the text that becomes the description of the YouTube description. So if I had links in there, it would be link, link, link. Similar kind of thing with reference, except I do that with the episode links. And I've got a collection of those. Yeah, sure, we'll save. Why not? It's just demo data right now. I'm going to re-import it later anyway. And I hit save.
So why don't you have a slush bucket edit for topic?
Because the topics come right out of here.
So you never want to pick them out of the...
This is what appears at the top of the article when it says, here's what I'm talking about today. I'm going to give an overview of array util. I'm going to then talk about arrays in JavaScript in general. So it's more human textual. The references section is going to be where the links come up, and those are often used. So under episode links,
I could just see how I think I would want the topics if I ended up having them. I might want them to be, if I've hit the same topic more than one time, I want that topic record to be a singular one, not multiple ones,
Uh,
so that I can reference it and link to it and relate those episodes together, so that I could do some meta linking between these things.
and you and I had talked about this before. One of the thought processes was we would like to present the readers of the blog, the viewers of the videos, some sort of way to relate these together. If I'm a beginner to ServiceNow development, I want to see the beginner videos, or I want to read the beginner blogs. We're going to have to find a way to group those together through this metadata. The episode links kind of do that. Gives me a slush bucket of what have I talked about? Let's see. We're going to be talking about the array util, so I'll put that over there. We're going to maybe talk about Flow Designer a little bit. We're going to be, this is easy, and if something doesn't exist, then I go and click new and put it in, and it comes into this record. So again, if I updated one of these elements, reparse and generate, and now I have my references section in the log HTML. It's, I tried to,
really cool. Like this is
yeah.
When you showed me this on Wednesday, I was like, yes, please. Like that sold me on merging our apps. I was like, I want this feature.
This feels like Bill McDermott's mergers. Like, you got really cool technology. We're gonna put that in our app.
Yeah, we like our app, and we're gonna take your cool stuff and put it in it.
And I'm fine with that. The whole thought was, if you put a little pre-production time into this, thinking about what topics you want to talk about, what reference links you want to hit, and the post-production becomes trivial. When I get done, I turn off the camera and I say goodbye to everybody. I want this thing live, posted, links done, and everything within 5 minutes. That should be the end of it. Again, room for automation, because we've got to update the link on the community so we can post remotely through a REST API, that kind of thing. LinkedIn is currently not working because I wrote it for version 1 of their APIs, which is deprecated about a year ago, maybe a little bit more. And I haven't had time to go back and implement version 2. It's a bit more complex. I liken it to the difference between basic auth and OAuth 2.0. It's a different mindset that I haven't quite got into. But again, it's a lot of the same stuff. I've got a state, I've got a date when I expect it to be published. Yeah. The category is really, since I retooled this in April around the whole topical deep dive, lessons learned, API adventures, that kind of thing, is it just gives me a code of where I can put that in. The process flow formatter is somewhat meaningless at this point. But the basic stuff is here. The template tells me how I want, like the community template, there's only one. So a reference field is really probably not the right thing, because when you have a table and there's ever only one record.
Only one record in it, and it has only been one record for a year.
So like this template
might be overkill.
This post template points to the post template table. There's one record in it. The YouTube points to the YouTube template table. There's only one record in that one. The LinkedIn template, same thing. We probably have some, when apps grow organically, I'm sure our developers recognize this.
Oh yeah.
We don't always have the long-term vision in mind.
Never.
Certain things.
And you shouldn't, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing about when you're looking at older stuff, whether you created it or someone else. It grew up organically, and it was delivering value along the way and collecting feedback and, growing. So the process and the app were growing together.
Oh, and there, of course, is a YouTube integration to this. So nightly, after I've got an episode up and running, I don't know if my credentials are on this machine or not, but let's take the one I did yesterday, which was the form and list data. And my YouTube thing says I've got 311 views. I suspect it is running because that sounds like today's number. And I say, update YouTube views. This is not 315. It's not using Flow Designer or Integration Hub yet. I just started learning about, actually, I just like 2 weeks ago got Flow Designer working with an API key for credentials. So we've got some working together on that stuff too. Right now, this is all done through outbound script APIs. It's a bit brittle, I'll say, but it can work. The track comments allows me to get a notification, an email notification when somebody makes a comment on YouTube. So I got every 6 hours, I go out and do another YouTube API call and say, are there any new comments on any of these videos? Boom, 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 boom. And it sticks them down in the comments table. So I've already got 3 comments out here from these people. And it sends me a mail with a link to the video directly to YouTube and a link to this comment record so I can see who said what and where do I go and how do I get there. So it's pretty well tied together. My reason for doing that is because I'm not only watching my video. I don't own the community channel. I don't have the credentials. It's not mailing my account. So if somebody makes a comment, I don't want to miss it. And I don't want to wait 3 weeks for somebody on the community team to go, hey, Chuck, you got a comment. I want to know about it.
That's not very interactive.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, 1 day feels like a big delay to me, but we'll talk about how often we want to scrub for comments. And at least now I'm getting emails from things that are tracking comments on the developer channel, on the community channel, on the support channel. So artifacts that I've made that are in other, I don't know, licenses, properties, whatever you want to call it, other accounts. In fact, the only account I own is my own personal Chuck Tomasi account on YouTube. So, and people aren't commenting about that very much. So there's no point putting it in here.
So the thing I envision with the comments for us moving forward is, so we have YouTube comments, we've got blog comments, we've got community comments.
Yeah.
I foresee, having a dashboard of the unified view of comments that are unresponded to by someone on our team that we can just, open up in the morning and do our replies.
The other thing to consider is maybe we take those comments and we do some word cloud on them to see what is driving interest. You've got PA on this instance. I have not involved PA yet because I would like to track how's the growth, where are we going, more on the number side, but we could easily put it into the comments into word cloud.
And so in doing things like that, not just the comments, but watching other community interactions with stuff like that to see where questions are and things, because you're doing some manual steps here to you found a question and you're putting in here. And what I'd like is to ultimately see that kind of thing is surfaced for us, right? Here's an idea that's moving up quickly in the idea community. Here's a mini replied to discussion in the community. Maybe we should go look at it and see if there's a broader question that we can answer from it. Some introspection to give us some insights on what's going on in the community from automation.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. We've got the community comments we could link back here. So it's going to be beneficial for whoever's making the comment that we can get that rapid response to them, but also beneficial to us so we can start analyzing, hey, what's happening? Because I'll tell you, I've gotten in the last month, I think 3 or 4 topics just from viewer feedback. Hey, can you do this? I've got a question about that. It's like, well, clearly I haven't covered that topic well enough or at all that it's time for a video on that. So,
and we love that. So if you're watching the show now or later in the future, please leave us comments, reach out in Slack, reach out in the community, tag us so that we can collect those questions. So if you've got a topic that you want a blog on, a community article on, a YouTube, a live code, let us know. Like we're not doing we don't think of all of these things ourselves because we don't that may not be useful to the greater community. So we get most of our ideas for what we're going to talk about and do from the community. So if you have something, let us know.
If you read Bill McDermott's book, Winner's Dream, he talks about, going back to his deli store, listening to the customers and giving them what they want. That's what we want to deliver to you as well. So have a say.
And that's also why if you look in our artifact manager in backlog, that's why it's not 6 months out into the future. That's because we want to know what you want now and soon, not later.
So when somebody says, hey, I want to know more about Flow Designer, we're going to find a way to apply that to our applications and then show you what you need to know about the basics of Flow Designer or something like that.
Awesome. So that's the two apps, and you can sort of see that there's already some pretty easy overlap. I mean, we've got title in both of them. We've got description in both of them. We've got date in both of them. We have a couple more date fields. We've got a category list versus a category dropdown. But there's lots of commonalities that I can see right off the top. You've got a URL field for YouTube, and probably a URL field for community, and possibly one for LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, but that's not working. But mumble.
And I guess part of my thought here, before we start tying these together, is, Brad, what do you think about that kind of thing? So right now, our YouTubes and blogs and social posts are, for us, separate artifacts. And we've talked about doing some joint artifacts, like these live codes becoming longer form blog entries. And do we want to maintain two artifacts, or do we want to have some, ability to do both in one? I'm not sure which way I'm sold yet.
2 apps with a bridge or 1 app entirely?
Yeah, so I guess just to reframe it, we've got, when we do a live code, it is its own artifact in our artifact manager.
Yes.
And we may write a blog about a single live code or a series of live codes, and that blog is its own artifact. And what we're seeing in Chuck's community live stream episode table is that he's got these community live streams that exist on YouTube, and then they all have a community blog post associated with them as well. So they're all grouped into the same one. So yeah, I think it kind of depends on where we want to go with our videos and live codes, if we want to do that, or I think if we don't want to combine them all, then it may make sense to do them separate and automate the creation of the other artifact in different cases.
Yeah.
Going forward, do you envision, you said you want to do a community blog article similar to what I'm doing for the CLS with LCHH, right? So we have to come up with that.
So that's not precisely right. So what we want to do is we want to do a blog entry for the developer site for some of the YouTubes.
Oh, some. Okay.
And then also, we want to take our blog entries and reference them in the community.
Gotcha.
So we will want to have so some live codes will have a blog, which will then also have a community link.
I don't have any heartburn about breaking apart the blog piece from the streaming piece,
as long as it's just as easy for you.
Exactly. Maybe it's the UI action that we use, and we say, click this, and it says, turn this video into a blog, and it's done. If we can make it that easy, why not? I mean, it's okay to have 2 artifacts, and not to be boastful, but it makes our record look better that we're producing more artifacts.
That wasn't a factor for me, but
I'm just putting a spin on it.
But
let's boost our numbers.
We got to go for more work.
That's a management spin right there.
We'll have to delete this part of the live stream.
Yeah.
Nobody watches anyway.
They're not watching this anyway. It's true. I feel like probably I'll want them to be. Let me ask a requirements question from my end. So I have sort of where I would envision it from how we use ours. From yours, once your show's over with, do you actually interact with those records anymore? Like, once you hit publish,
Generally, no. I use them more for statistical information. It becomes how many views do they have? How are we doing? In fact, I've got a quick dashboard on here. I don't know if my dashboard came over. Probably not. I'm in this scope. Maybe it did. Let's go to dashboards. I haven't configured this one the way I did. If I can't get this going in 10 seconds, I will bring it back to the original source of where this came from.
Okay.
So dashboard. Come on. All right. Probably owned by me. Oh, look at there.
Ho, ho, ho.
Hey, there you go.
So
That was roughly 10 seconds. We'll allow it.
This dashboard's broken. I got nothing.
Oh.
So what normally would show up on this one is how many views per month. So I can see over the last 2.5 years, are we trending up or trending down? This is, if somebody watched a video from March, it's going to go in the March bucket. It's not going to go into the number of views. So it's not completely accurate, but it gives me a proxy of how well are certain episodes doing. And then on the bottom is average views per month, per episode per month. So I can say, hey, more viewers are watching in June than they were in May, or May versus last May. So it gives me just a couple of quick, simple, quick bar graphs. The top rated tells me the views, how are we doing on topics? You can see since I retooled it, things are going very, very well. Most of these top 10 are out of April, May, June of this year, which is very nice. It shows me that the refactoring of the show is doing well. And then these are just purely egotistical numbers. How are we doing overall?
Some big numbers there.
Those are some big numbers.
This is, this one I'm particularly proud of. Oops, I didn't mean to go backwards. It is how many views do I have on any property that I've been involved with. So this includes stuff from the ServiceNow support channel that I've done voiceovers on. This is all TechNow. TechNow makes up over half of that number. And it's less than half, it's a fraction of all the videos. So I'm really happy about that. The JavaScript series is 175,000 of that number. So it's all kinds of different things from different sources. So at some point in mid to late September, I'm going to be able to say I'm a $1 million viewer. I mean, a million viewer person. And then I can compare this month to last month, how we're doing. Obviously, we just started the month, so 977 views across, 2 videos, and averages, whether they're going up or down. These are numerical representations of this month and last month to the bar charts that are apparently broken. But
nice. Can you go to one of your episodes? And then I think I've got a couple of questions that will lock in the decision.
Lessons learned from earlier this week.
So on community, if we're automating this part for you, you don't actually type anything. Like you don't actually come here and type anything.
Not at all.
You just copy and paste this.
And copy and paste, yes.
So you don't care where that lives.
Do you add the URL after you create the post?
I have the URL after I create the post, because what I'm doing now to minimize this in lieu of having a REST API is I post it early, like the day before, in draft state. Mm-hmm. Then when I'm done and I stop the camera, I just make it public.
Nice.
Okay.
Which is why you might watch a video now and it says this was created 4 days ago. Wait, didn't you just turn off the camera?
Yeah.
And so the community and YouTube tabs here, you don't actually edit them.
No. There's one cosmetic thing that I do in YouTube, but it's because my template is broken. I'll usually take that line out. I just got to fix the template.
Okay. So that leads me to believe that it's fine if they generate their own artifacts.
I think so too.
Through automation.
And keep them up to date. We would need a URL or some way to reference them so that as we
as their own artifacts, they would have their own artifact URLs.
Yep. Absolutely.
Because they feel sort of like the fields you have here feel like they are separate records. Like your community tab feels like a separate record and your YouTube feels like a separate record.
Especially in light of you've got a separate record for YouTube. We could keep all this over there or just generate it dynamically, whatever it takes. We would, since these are generated from the same elements, I'll call them, this comes from the topic list, this comes from the episode links list. there is still some connectivity in there. I don't know how we want to reference the artifact to another artifact. Did you have a parent field or something that
We do. We have a parent field.
Okay, so that might be a possibility. The templating, I'll show this real quick because it's very similar to the way that like mail is done. It uses the $ curly brace stuff. Let me
Sure
that for you a little bit. But
Ooh,
nothing real magical here.
very zoomy.
But it's a little brittle at this point because it's looking for specific keywords. And Andrew and I talked about this. It's been on my backlog for probably 2 years now to clean that up and make it more data-driven, map this keyword to this function to go stick this data in. It could be as simple as, gs.getUsername. It could be a little more involved, like run the script include and then roll this for loop to make this list. That's kind of what I want to do with this, is to make it more flexible. So, and share that with everybody on Share, that we've got this meta string replacement utility for you.
Yeah, I like that idea. So to me, that seems like episodes becomes artifacts, and your artifacts will likely and ours, when we want them to, will generate children artifacts, and that seems perfectly reasonable to me.
Yeah, it might just be separate UI actions for create a community article, much the way you would create.
I wouldn't even make them UI actions.
Yeah,
they would just be properties of the thing. So
okay,
like
and I think
the community live stream ones, until we change the process, they would automatically create the community article and the YouTube entry, and it would be automatic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've got that parent field, and so it makes sense that what this really is a community live stream, and it happens to also generate a blog, a community blog, a live code happy hour. It's a live code happy hour, and it may generate some other artifacts as well.
Yeah, it may generate a blog, and then the blog may generate a community. And that would all be automation driven. And I don't want to press a button. If I'm going to do it the same way every time, then if I know what the strategy is for how I'm going to do it, I can convince the computer to do it for me.
Right. I was wondering if every live stream, whether it was community or live coding happy hour or something in the future, if every one of those is going to generate the same artifacts. But we could make that dependent on
some other metadata. It could even be who's it's assigned to, or there's several properties that we can handle for that. And we use templating for the creation of our entities. And so likely what you would do is once you're using Artifact Manager, is when you created a new community stream entry, you would use that template, and it would apply whatever the metadata to that artifact that would then trigger that it does the other two steps as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
So cool.
Planning today. Do we want to
Let's go do some work. I mean, we've got 10 minutes to do real work.
Step one. You know what I think step one is? We need to open up the artifact table to be cross-scope aware, because right now it's just letting you read. I checked that out earlier. If I go into Studio and
do I? No,
No,
I'm saying do I?
Do you what?
Do we have to open it up?
Well, if I'm going to be creating artifacts from the CLS app, yeah.
Who said you have to create them from the CLS app?
Where are you going to create them from?
The thing that can do the creation could be
Artifact Manager.
Artifact Manager.
Watching for new records
in your table.
And changes. Yeah, I guess you could do that. Do a pull instead of a push. I didn't know if you wanted how much you wanted me to pollute your app.
It's pollute away.
Yeah, it's one app.
Pollute away. Yeah, we can always disable that business rule later, right?
And
okay.
And do you want it to be a business rule, or do we want it to be a flow?
You know what? Flow feels better to me. It feels more robust.
So let's make it a flow.
Yep. So make sure I'm in Artifact Manager. I am. Doesn't matter with Flow anyway.
It doesn't. Yeah. Let you pick.
All right. First time in Flow Designer on this system. I'm going to favorite it because it is one of my most common tools these days. It's funny how you narrow this down to like 3 or 4 things that you just use all the time. Studio, Flow, Service Portal config. It's like, that's probably my top 3 that I'm doing right now. Okay, new flow, or should we do a subflow so we could possibly call it from a flow or a UI action or something?
Ooh, I like that forward-looking thinking, because almost every time I end up making a flow,
You wish it was a subflow.
I was like, man, I really wish this was a subflow so that I could just call this thing whenever and however I want to.
I've been doing the same thing. In fact, I've got
So a lot of my flows are,
Yep.
the only thing in the flow is calling a subflow.
And I'm okay with that. The only thing in my
Which is
business flow
great.
calling a subflow, but that's fine. It turns them into your, almost
script
like
includes,
include
right?
2.0. Yeah.
It is.
So let's do this. Waiting for the application to load. CLS create artifact.
Hey, we're lucky you can see the application list.
That doesn't sound good. Maybe we should edit that part out. Waiting for it. I'm assuming it's going to fill in with whatever was on the scope picker. We do user or system?
System.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do we need to wait for application to finish loading? Yes, because
I mean, it won't let you
You
submit
can't hit
without.
submit.
So
what's the holdup on your system? I'm sorry, I moved here.
you didn't get the right paper stamped at the
Should we categorize our subflow while we're waiting?
the office.
Sure, why not? Let's make a CLS subflow or CLS episode. We might have CLS topics and CLS YouTube and something else later. We're waiting for an available socket. Has anyone seen one?
No, you're holding it.
Desk here somewhere. I'm looking.
I'm
I'm waiting for that counter to come up and go, we've been waiting for 30
We've
seconds.
been waiting. Would you like to cancel?
Oh,
Oh, there you go. So the
Did
picker's
our-
probably done now.
Let's make a new one called CLS episode. Wow. Don't drink and code, kids. Sure, that sounds good. Actually, you know what? Yeah, we'll leave it that way. I was going to leave off the CLS for a sec. It's in Artifact Manager application. Yay, we've successfully created a flow.
Yay.
And our input will be what, an episode record? I would think so. That would be a good input. Let's call it CLS. I don't want to be overly redundant, but I don't want it to be. Do we have any other episode tables in here? You can't anyway. Doesn't matter because it's going to be a reference. Reference. Has anybody, I got a question for you. Has anybody played with the document ID field yet?
I've used it.
like in
Flow?
general or in flow?
In Flow.
I don't think I've done a subflow document ID before.
Because with a reference field, I thought this would allow us to pick any record from any table, kind of like a data pill picker lets you do that. Just say, show me a record, and you could throw any record from any table. But document ID still points to a list of tables, and
It does.
I'm not sure how that varies from reference.
For me, it's no different
Damn.
when I used it, because you still have to specify. There are some tricks
Oh,
that you can do.
okay. Well, we're gonna have to share those tricks another time.
Yeah.
I don't know that we necessarily need an output. I can't think of any at this point. We're just say creating or updating a record in another
Yeah,
table,
no,
or watching the records in another table.
I don't
And
think we
then-
need output for now.
Okay, what are we doing in this flow? So Artifact Manager is going to launch a flow or a business rule and say, when something is changed on the CLS episode table, I want to what? Create or update here?
Yeah, we want to create or update the related artifact for
Okay.
that episode.
So artifact, artichoke, artifact.
And so probably the first thing we need to do is decide how we want to relate them.
Yeah.
Do we want a reference field on one of these tables, or do we want an M to M? So do we want an M to one or an M to M?
What are we linking together? The artifact to the episode?
yeah, because we need these linked somehow. They need a unique identifier of some form.
Yep. And I can see an argument for both ways. The M2M would be more disposable. So when we get this fully integrated, if and when we do that, we could just throw away the M2M table and hooray, we don't have any remnants. A reference field would always be there, but I don't see a
But it would always be there on your table if we put it on yours.
It would
and then your table goes away.
And then my table goes away. That could work. You could do a lookup for records that are related. I don't see a need to relate multiple episodes to multiple artifacts.
Yeah. So that's why a reference feels right. Or if we have a unique identifier already that we can leverage. So
would mean
for us, URL is a unique identifier for our artifacts.
So is the video ID for that matter.
We don't store the video ID in artifact.
You store that in the,
we store it in the
YouTube table.
In the YouTube table.
Yep.
And so our link between the YouTube table and artifacts is actually the URL field to how to find them. And then we use a reference field once we found it. So.
Okay.
So I think a reference field on episode table is how I land.
Then I would need to go to
your
episode.
Yeah, that feels right because the episode table is eventually going to go away.
Because then it doesn't create longer lasting things. It's only here for as long as we need it.
I don't have any.
I mean, one of the things normally to consider would be, how you plan on dot walking in the future. If you're going to reference something, then if we were going to reference that table from Artifact Manager, you might want to put the field on Artifact Manager so you can just dot walk to the values and then copy them into Artifact Manager.
You know what? Let's do it through Form Designer.
But since it's going away, I don't think that matters that much.
It's really,
and with Flow, I don't even think the dot walking is as big a deal in Flow.
After building an app for so many years, it's hard to say it's just going away. I don't know if anybody else
Sorry,
has.
Chuck.
It's merging into the board,
Merging.
Merging.
It doesn't have that many. I don't know if many of you have an app out there, but I've got one that's running at my old company for 25 years. It still hasn't gone away. I tried killing it in 2008, but it still lives on, and I
think all of us developers have apps that lasted way longer than we thought they should.
Yeah.
Not that this is one of those cases, but
there's one guy driving it. I said, Lee, I can replace this with a freaking catalog item on ServiceNow. Oh no,
right, so
that's what I want.
We're gonna add in a new reference field, right?
I am. I'm just deciding where to put it. You know what? It doesn't really go.
Put it anywhere and then move it later.
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't even need to be on the form. Just.
Oh, you're right. It doesn't.
Create the thing.
So you could do it in Studio.
I could have done it in Studio. Well,
we're already here. Just drop it in there and then.
Whoa!
No!
That is.
Oh no!
Stop!
What happened?
Abort!
Close the tab. Close the tab.
What? Stop. Let's go back to configure table.
Configure table.
That was bizarre. First time for everything.
Do not want.
Yeah, I'm kidding. All right. So wait for it. Come on. There. And artifact. Sounds good to me. Reference. Ditto. And artifact. Artichoke. And that's about it.
Yeah. Done and done.
It's gonna put it
now we can drop right back into Flow and pick up.
Right back into Flow. And we want when that episode changes, we want to update the episode record, not the artifact record.
No, we want to update the artifact record.
What are we doing with the artifact record?
So we're either going to create an artifact record or update it, because right now the episodes are the source of truth.
Okay.
So we're doing one directional. Why did you kill it?
Because this doesn't know about the artifact field yet.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Okay. So update or create. Where were we going on this? Artifact table.
Artifact table, and we'll get one field before we leave.
Description, title, what did you call it?
Short description is your title, I think, or
I think it's called title on ours.
title.
Right?
Yeah, I think it's called
good.
title.
We're matched on that then.
Look at that. So title will probably be title.
Episode.
Done.
Yeah.
Done.
Whew, I got 3 titles, but I know it's this one. There's a LinkedIn title, there's a community title, there's a YouTube title. Yeah, I wasn't too happy about that. Is that it? We need to like, oh no, so what do we, how do we?
So this is the subflow, is when once something that, whatever, whether it's a flow or a business rule or whatever,
right,
a scheduled job that's calling this, however we want to do that, is going to say, hey, this episode has been updated, go create or update its relevant artifact.
Okay, so let's
how does that subflow know whether it should create or update a record?
Right, it needs something unique on it.
It does need a unique.
We missed that. Good call.
Yeah, we didn't do that.
And let's go back to subflow. Create. There's a little checkbox next to all these fields that say this is kind of your coalesce field on an import set. We need to say.
And so we need something that we're gonna. So it's probably going to be URL.
Yeah, because it's the reference field on the episode that links them.
Yeah.
So the other thing we could do is we could have. Yeah, no, I don't like that choice. I like this choice just fine. But the other path is we know whether or not there is one because it'll be in the field. And if it is one, then we'll do an update. And if there isn't one, we could do a create. I think since we're absolutely sure we know what the thing is, that create or update is not necessarily how we want to do this.
Okay.
But it feels so duplicative. It doesn't matter which word I was going for there. It feels like we're going to do the same thing in both of those actions. So that's really annoying. Oh, wait.
Subflow.
How about if we set the
reference field is on the episode, so we should already know the artifact that's created, or are we going to create and update the episode? What order are we?
But why don't we try and set the
You guys can't see how excited Andrew just got, but he got real excited on the video.
but sad then, because I squashed it in my brain. Because I was like, oh, we've got it. We could just set it like the number from the episode.
The episode doesn't have a number.
What? No, the episode.artifact.number has one.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And so we could set that if it's there, and if it's not, then it creates a new one.
Oh.
What if
if it's empty, it will auto-generate one. I think we can do that. Let's try it. I'm not sure it'll work, but I want to try it.
I'm wondering if it just makes more sense to say if episode artifact is empty, then we're going to create a new record and link it back to the episode. Because this hasn't been filled in yet.
Oh, actually, here's how we do it. You're right. So here's what we do is nuke that.
Done.
Do a lookup.
Okay.
So we'll do an if and then a lookup, but you can do the lookup first and then drop it under the if.
You better be doing records. If you do a lookup
records for now, yes.
If it doesn't find anything, the flow stops.
Yes. Look, very sneakily, I'm going to let sneak in that that's going to change.
I assume you want to look up the episode or the artifact?
I want to look up the artifact.
Okay.
Artifact.
And what are we using as our condition?
Episode.artifact.
that the number is, sysid or whatever. Sysid is episode.artifact.sysid.
This ID is, oh, okay. Dink, 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 dink. Sys.
Oh, wait, we don't need to look up artifacts. My bad.
No, we just need to know if the value is populated or not.
My bad. We don't need to look up artifacts at all. We need to create. I said the wrong one. It's create. So we're going to do an if you have anything in our episode.artifact. And if it fails, it will create one. And if it and after both of those, we'll be able to.
This is what's sad. This condition builder doesn't have full like string capability. It doesn't say is empty and is. I've run into this before and it drives me bonkers.
So contains or does not contain.
I wish we could put a regex in here. We could say it's a hex character. And maybe we can do this. Maybe this is equivalent to is empty.
I would not trust that.
Well, it's. I don't know. Let's try it here. Let's do a quick log. I think we're out of time, but
we are
empty.
But we'll be able to pick right back up on this. Next time on
action log.
And I'll finish my thought on.
This is how I find out if things really work or not. I do a lot of logs. Not empty. Okay, done.
I mean, I wouldn't have put logs there because I would just run it and then then it would tell me in the execution.
Oh boy, now community. Let's take the one from 2018 sounds good to me. Run, test.
Hey, look, it's the top one without the. I don't have to look at the logs.
Should we put something in there and make sure it works?
Did not work.
Huh?
Yeah, well, it doesn't have an episode, so that did work.
Right.
I thought the first one was. Oh yeah, that's right. If it is empty.
Yeah. Let's go to 828.
Disregard.
Well, you just created the field, so none of them will have anything in there.
I know, but I want to put one in there.
Okay.
I want to put one in there from 2018-0818. Was that what it was? Yes. Yes. 28. That's probably a Saturday anyway. So let's put our artifact link. Not that. Get the right thing, Charles. Don't drink and code, kid. And pick an artifact.
Anyhow.
Sure, that sounds good.
That one looks great.
We're just testing the flow.
And hit test again.
One test.
And now our expectation is that we hit the lower branch, which we do.
Hey,
yay!
It did work.
Just
now we can do this.
We don't have an is empty in the condition builder. You can do empty conditions. Just say it's.
At least under these constraints, which is it's a reference field that is empty.
Okay.
And it doesn't feel good, but it works.
It doesn't feel good, but it works.
Then if it is empty, we go and create a record.
Yes.
And update the episode with that new created record. If it's not empty, we update the record. It feels like we just kind of walked around the creator update, but we don't have that information yet. So we have to do it this way.
Yeah, and I think it's potential that the creator update could work with the method that I was thinking of, is to see if, the artifact number is the coalesce.
Your title is episode title. We're going to just get this.
And hilariously, so I'm sorry. I don't.
What?
So this is what I wanted to avoid, actually.
I know, I did too. But I don't think there is in this case. There's sometimes when create or update doesn't do exactly what you need.
So hilariously, what I want to do with how this is going is I want to create the artifact, but not map the fields. Just map one and do a lookup and then an update with the mappings. I almost want it to be a separate flow even.
I knew that
Like,
was coming.
like I want to run one of these flows if there is no artifact in the field, and I want to run one of these flows if there is.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's go test. There we are. You know what happens when you do this? It's going to say, please give me an input. Isn't that nice? I hate it when it does that. You got to X this out, then go back.
Pick a new one. Yeah.
Oh, community 828. Run. We know that one has a value. Add request. Uh-oh.
It's fine. Let's go ahead and wrap up here.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to this. I'm gonna parse my brain a little bit on what I was thinking here. Because there's some different stuff that I'd probably, so it's not quite aligning how I wanted to, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to have two different things that have the list of what I want synced between. Like I don't want that in my life at all. I want only one place where it's saying, here's the fields from this table to this table that I want mapped. I only want one action in Flow Designer doing that. And I'll figure out a way to only make it one action that's doing that.
Someone's got his homework.
Maybe we work backwards from the creator update action. Like what could make this work? Then that's how we do the reference.
Right. So that'll be key to me, because what I really want to avoid is the maintenance of having to maintain multiple like transform mappings, essentially, is what we're doing there. I don't want to maintain multiple ones so that I have to update it in more than one place, that this goes to this spot.
Well, Flow does have those field templates where you can do the field mappings and save them later, but you're right. We should be able to get away without that.
Yeah, I would like to avoid that if at all possible here, and I think it's possible. So I'd like to avoid having to do that mapping more than once. Hilariously, we'll talk about it later. A way that will make me less annoyed with that. We're caught up on what's in Paris, and we'll be sharing that soon, but we can't do it yet. So there's some fun stuff in that area. So thanks so much for showing us that today, Chuck. I think we've covered most of the questions along the way in the chat. Thank you for participating, everybody. So now let us thank our beverages. Brad, how was yours today, sir?
My Kentucky Winter Golden Stout was pretty good. It was kind of a light stout for the summer. I'm going to give it a 4.
Oh, nice. And Chuck, how was yours
today? I give
today?
the extra premium lager. It didn't quite get finished because
you were busy.
The presenter when they're typing, and well, we were doing a lot of talking too. You know what? I give this a 3.75. It was really good as far as lagers go. Very full bodied. I was surprised. It's not. It ain't no Miller Lite.
Nice. And my Wicked Weed watermelon dragon fruit burst sour was pretty good. Not an amazing sour. Those sours I had on the last episode I was on, those were really good. Those were 4 5s. This is a 4. On a different day it might even be a 3.75, but today it's a 4. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We're gonna continue on with this one. So we won't do too much on the side for this part of it. We're going to pick back up and share the learnings, because I think what we're doing here is actually useful and important, and will help future me, when because a lot of this stuff we do, we write things down and we record it because it's good for everyone, not just which also includes us. The number of times I've referenced what I said on a video previously is a little high.
Yeah, and Josh doing OAuth 2.0. How many times have we got it? Like one of our most viewed videos by ServiceNow people.
Yes, by Josh and by me and by Dave. We reference those videos quite often, actually, hilariously.
It's a reason why I gravitate to API keys.
OAuth is troublesome some days. When it works, it's great, but getting it set up is a pain sometimes. So have a great weekend, and we have a show planned for next week to continue on with the smoking, and then we'll pick back up on Artifact Manager probably the following week. Have a great and safe weekend, and thank you for joining us, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Everybody.